This is Andrew from STRIFE, and I want you to
put your horns up like this.
We're here in New York City. It is so great to have STRIFE back in the scene. Andrew, welcome back. I mean, I know you're working on your new music. It's about to come out. So let's start from there, man. Tell us about like the new album and how you guys feel right now about like finally releasing it.
Cool. Yeah, we got a new album coming out called A Rebirth, coming out November 6th on 6131 Records. We've been working on it. We started recording early in February, actually. So it's a long time in the making. I flew down to Brazil with our producer, Nick Jett. And we recorded drum tracks with Iggor Cavalera from obviously Sepultura, Cavalera Conspiracy. Started the album there, and then came back to LA and finished everything up in LA, and then been working on the packaging and layout, and finally the record's it's time for the record to come out. So we're really excited. Can't wait to get the new album out and see what everyone thinks and start playing on it. Start touring. So.
And obviously, production-wise, doesn't make much sense to go to Brazil and then go back to LA. But of course, it's because Igor was there, and I'm sure he wanted to kind of like.
Yeah, I mean, we had to work with Igor. Like, Igor said he was going to record the album, and I had to be there. You know what I mean? I had to be there to work with him on the record. I wrote the majority of the songs on the album, so it was either fly Igor to LA and record with him in LA, or take a trip down to Brazil and record with him there, and I opted to go to Brazil. It's a great country. I have so many friends there, and I just thought it was great to actually be able to work with Igor in his own his own country, and it was awesome. It's such a great experience, and I'm really glad it all worked out that way.
From what I heard, I've read a couple of your press releases. He did his thing, but he was like also fitting to the STRIFE sound. And I think that's what makes a drummer like Igor stand out. Like, he can kind of be like, all right, this is this band, so I'm gonna sonically do something different.
Yeah, I mean, Igor's an amazing drummer, and he didn't want to come in and be like, it's a drum solo. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, he's been a friend of the band, and was a fan of the band for a long time. We toured with Sepultura in '97, the last tour they did with Max. We played the last show they played. Actually, me and Rick play on the Under a Pale Gray Sky album, the live record. So we did the last shows ever, and so Igor is real familiar with the band, and he definitely wanted to fit in with our sound. You know what I mean? Like, that was the whole thing. It had to fit our sound. And he's such a versatile and such a great drummer. He just came in, he nailed it. He did some, he didn't overplay. He did just good, straightforward drumming with some amazing accents. So when you do hear some crazy roll, it really sticks out, as opposed to just being real busy the whole time. He's super solid, and just some great fills, and he was amazing. Like, I couldn't have asked for a better person. Obviously, it doesn't get much better than that. So.
And you also had a couple other special guests, like Billy from Biohazard, Marc Rizzo from Soulfly, Cavalera Conspiracy. And how did Puerto musicians come together? Of course, you're all friends first and foremost, but how were you able to get these cats in your record?
It was crazy. I actually drum tech for Igor on the last U.S. Cavalera Conspiracy tour. That's how the whole thing kind of came together. Was Igor asked me to go on the road with him, and at that time I was already writing the STRIFE songs, so I had demos and I was working on them. And there was a time I was sitting on the bus listening to the demos, and me and Igor would kind of work on music on our off time and stuff together anyway. And he's like, "Oh, what are you listening to?" And I said it was the new STRIFE demos he wanted to hear, and he was asking who was playing drums. And actually, our drummer at the time, he's in another band, and he's like, "Who's playing drums on the record?" And I'm like, "I don't know. We're trying to figure it out. We're scheduling." And he's like, he said, I'll do it. You don't have a drummer, I'll do it. And I was like, "You're done. You're the drummer. Let's make it happen." And we just kept pushing, like figuring out scheduling, because he plays in Mix Hell as well, and Cavalera Conspiracy. He's a few kids, so just had to work out the scheduling, and that's how that came about. And then obviously I met Marc Rizzo on that tour as well, and he was a longtime STRIFE fan. Saw us in Newark, New Jersey, like in '95 or '96, and he was a good friend, became a great friend. Everyone in that band became a great friend. So he's like, "Oh, anytime you need anything, let me know." And I just stayed in contact with him, and I was like, "We're working on a new record. Let's get a lead on there." And I actually recorded it. They played the Fox Theater in Pomona on a Soulfly tour, and I brought my gear there, recorded the lead right there in the dressing room. and it just worked out. And then the thing with Billy was actually when I was writing the song, we were demoing the song, and I wrote this little bridge, and I was just like, this would be perfect for Billy from Biohazard. Like, it just, you know what I mean? Like, right when I wrote it, I was like, we need Billy from Biohazard on it. And I was like, we got to make that happen. And it happened. Nick, who produced the album, was, he plays in Terror. They did a tour with them in January. So even before we recorded the album, he was on tour with them, and he's like, yo, Billy, I'm producing Strife. Like, they really want you on this song. And he said he would do it, and it was just like a scheduling thing. He has a studio called Firewater in LA. We sent him the tracks. He did it. Fucking nailed it. Perfect. Amazing. We also have Scott Vogel from Terror, who's a longtime friend of mine, like one of my favorite hardcore bands ever. And that was just, you know, he's a good friend. So Scott, come down. You're singing on this song. And it was awesome. It was a really great experience. We actually have part 3 of the documentary we've been shooting is coming out probably next week. And that it talks about all the special guests and has interviews with some of the people featured on the record, so you can get a little insight into that process. But it was great. Like, I thought it was really fun, just working with not only great friends but musicians I look up to and people that can add their add their skill set to our album and make it a little different. And I thought it was awesome. I was really happy with the whole record, but all the guest performance as well. It was awesome.
And any chance of seeing any of those guys on tour with you guys? Maybe special performances?
I wouldn't say on tour, but if we ever do shows together, of course, yeah, they'll come out and do the songs, of course. Whether we tour Brazil, like Igor is not going to tour with us. You know what I mean? He's very busy. But if we play Brazil and he happens to be there, of course he'll come up and play a song with us. Or if we happen to be in Europe at the same time, then that goes for Scott from Terror or Billy from Biohazard or anyone on the record. And it's funny actually. On In This Defiance, we recorded a song called Will to Die with Chino from Deftones back in 1996. And I ran into him recently, and we were talking about that song, and he's like, he said it was crazy because he always gets asked, about that song, and people all over the world always give him props for actually doing a song with Strife, which I think was awesome. And he even said, like, at some point we got to play that song together. Like, that'd be an honor. Like, Deftones were one of my favorites, and great fucking band. So, I mean, at the time it was amazing to have him on the record, but we never played that song with him live. So hopefully one day we'll get a chance to make that happen.
So Chino, if you were watching the Deftones camp, if you guys are watching, bring Strife on the road with you guys. That would be a great tour. Deftones and Strife. Whoa.
It would be great. Even one show. We don't have to take up a whole tour. Just let one show. Let's make it happen.
You obviously brought up Scott Vogel from Terror, one of the hardest working men in hardcore, always been flying the flag. And when you guys started together, it was basically when Victory Records started. You, yourselves, of course, Terror and Snapkiss were the 3 bands, the 3 big hardcore
Well, I will say, actually, Terror's never been on Victory. He was in a band called Buried Alive on Victory. And before that, he was in a band called Despair, who we tried to get signed to Victory. They actually played our record release show for In This Defiance. Our record release show was at the Barn in Riverside in like 1996. Strife, Hatebreed, Despair, and 1 or 2 other bands. And I've known Scott like for years for touring, and he just became a great friend. And Terror's, like you said, one of the hardest working bands in hardcore. One of the best bands. They have a new album they just recorded. It's fucking Live by the Code. That's amazing. Like, due out next year. Big inspiration to me, and I feel like they're really carrying the torch of the true hardcore and the hardcore that I love, the hardcore I grew up on. They're carrying that torch, and I always felt like if Strife remained active, like we would sound like Terror. You know what I mean? And so Nick from Terror produced our album, and another longtime friend and amazing producer, and it's great. I love everybody in that band's amazing, and they're, like I said, one of my favorite hardcore bands of all time.
Hey, let me ask you something. How come you guys went on break? Because obviously people watching are wondering.
Well, the original time we broke up, it got to a point where we broke up in 97, 98, and it got to a point where it just became more of a job. It lost the fun was gone, and we were looking at it as a job, and we were doing the band full time, no other jobs, and it was just like relying on music as your income. It was a very hard thing to do, and you know, paying rent and bills and the normal bullshit. And it just, I think that just that weight was weighing down on everybody, and it lost its fun. So we decided to take a break until we all felt like we missed doing what we did and got the band back together. And, you know, and now I feel like we're in a place where not only do we all get along so much better, but we're all on the same page and we all have the same goals. And, you know, we're not going to be on the road 8 months out of the year, but we will, you know, get together and do some tours and do some shows and, you know, put together an amazing album that we're all super proud of. And that's, to me, is the biggest accomplishment, was getting this record done, getting it out, and it's, you know, it picks up right where This Defiance left off. Hard, heavy, in your face, hardcore record.
Before we get out of here, what brings you to New York? Obviously, it's CMJ week, so what is your focus on this particular
CMJ week, but I'm not here for CMJ. I'm here for Revelation Records' 25th anniversary show. I grew up listening to every band on this label. I grew up inspired by every band on this label, and there wouldn't be a Strife without Revelation Records, without bands like Judge, Gorilla Biscuits, Youth of Today, Side by Side, No for an Answer, Chain of Strength. Like there wouldn't be Strife without these bands, and I came to support, you know, an amazing label in hardcore in its 25th anniversary, and they put together a great package of bands, and that's why I'm here. And I'm going home before CMJ, actually. I'm supporting these bands, and, you know, like for me, Chain of Strength was probably one of the biggest influences on our band when we started. I got a chance to see them probably 3 or 4 times in the very early 90s, and they were one of the reasons why we started a band. Like, just their energy and being able to go up front and sing along and stage dive, and it was just such a great positive vibe. And it was, you know, seeing bands like Gorilla Biscuits and Judge, you know, as a 14-year-old kid, like, made me want to do what they were doing. And once those bands broke up, we kind of wanted to carry on that tradition of hardcore and that spirit. And that's what we want to do. And now we want to pass that same spirit and that tradition down to the younger bands. And that's what Witness a Rebirth, our new record, that's kind of what it's about. It's spreading basically everything we learned and love about hardcore, taking that and passing it down to the new generation, because hardcore is now theirs. You know what I mean? Like, it belongs to the younger kids, the younger bands, the brand new record labels. You know, it's their world, and you know, I want them to take it and do the right thing and make it a great place, you know, and to have that same spirit that I felt welcome going to a show as a 14-year-old kid, and the community and the fanzines, and, you know what I mean? It's more than just listening to music. You know, it's about supporting music, supporting bands, doing a zine, booking a show. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many more elements to being hardcore. It's not just, oh, I listen to this music. You know what I mean? And it's not about going on a message board and chat room and talking shit. You know what I mean? It's about the community and people and lifelong friends. Like, I'm seeing friends here I haven't seen in 20 years, and you know, seeing them and instantly being reconnected to them and hang out with them all day, and that's the true spirit of hardcore. And Chris Lisk right here, the man who set up Revelation Records.
All right, any touring plans for you guys? Obviously, with the record coming out, what is the agenda for the next 6 months to a year?
Well, right now we have, we're setting up our record release shows. We're doing 2 West Coast shows, November 17th at Aladdin's in Pomona with Bitter End, Zobaba and Piece by Piece, November 18th at Gilman with the same lineup. And then we're headed to the East Coast, November 30th in Connecticut with Super Touch and Death Before Dishonor. December 1st in Philly at the Barbary with every hardcore band, Down to Nothing, Mother, Mercy, Suburban Scum, Soul Search. It's going to be amazing shows. After that, basically, you know, some more U.S. dates, Europe, hopefully South America, Japan, like everywhere. We want to get back to Australia. You know, we definitely want to get back everywhere we've been to and places we never got a chance to see. Southeast Asia, you know, different parts of South America that we didn't get to go to. Colombia, you know what I mean? Like, go everywhere. And hopefully that's going to happen. Russia, Serbia. You know,
everywhere. Andrew, I want to thank you, man.
Thank you.
I want to wish you the best of luck with the release of the new record, guys. It's coming out November
6th, Witness a Rebirth. Check
And
it out.
on Tuesday night, they're going to be on eastvillageradio.com on the Black and Blue Takeover. Big shout out to those boys, of course.
Definitely.
Always representing. Again, thank you very much.
Thank
and
you.
good luck, brother.
Thank you.